Hi everybody, it's Alexa here from Once Upon a Chapter, and I'm here today to show you the books that I received for Christmas gifts. So I think my family and Johnny decided to go a little bit crazy this year. I put quite a few books on everybody's list this year and kind of just said, pick what you want to buy me. There's books ranging from, $5 all the way up to $25 or, somewhere in that range. Just buy me whatever you want, thinking they would just kind of pick a few, and I ended up getting, I think, 24 or 25 books, something like that. So they definitely went a little bit overboard. So let's just get into this so that this video doesn't take all day of your time. So the first thing is not necessarily a book to read, but it is a coloring book called Lost Ocean. This is the newer kind of coloring books that are kind of meant for adults. They have all these kind of beautiful illustrations in them, very detailed, which is hard to see on the camera, but they are. And I already have the Secret Garden and Enchanted Forest by this person, and so I wanted the Lost Ocean so I could have even more fun things to color, because I really like coloring. It just kind of helps calm me down and just kind of gives me something to do besides just reading and watching TV, or I can even do this while I'm listening to music or watching a TV show. So I'm really looking forward to coloring in the new one. Next up are just kind of a whole bunch of books, so let's just get into it. The first one being Etiquette and Espionage, which is the first book in the series. This is like a YA spy where the girl goes to like a finishing school, but at the finishing school you learn things not necessarily that you would learn in a normal finishing school, but things that you would learn in order to be a spy or to better protect yourself and to go on like missions and do things and things like that. So that's what this one is about, and because the first one was on Book Outlet, Johnny also got me the second book, or at least what I believe is the second book. Yep, book the second, The Finishing School. So now I have the first two books so I can dive into this series. I've been really wanting to read something by Gail Carringer, and I've heard that everything she writes is really good, and I own her adult series, but I just haven't read it yet. So hopefully reading something of her will kind of get me into this. Putting some of the books over there so that they don't take up all the space over here. Next up is also two books that go together. When we went to ALA midwinter, when it was in Chicago at the end of January, early February, they were giving away copies with the new cover of Mistborn, and so I got that there, and although I haven't read it yet, I've been looking for the other ones for a good price, and again, Book Outlet was a score. Johnny got these for me. The second book in the series is The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages is the third one. Again, these are pretty chunky books. These are the newer covers that they've put on them. I don't know if the new covers are meant to market it more to a teen market versus the adult market that they were kind of originally marketed for. I don't know a whole lot about the series, but a lot of people were reading and enjoying it in 2015, so now I own the three books. I know that there's kind of like a second part of the series that I think takes place either before these characters or like years and hundreds of years or so before or after these set of characters in the original series. But I'm interested in trying some of Brandon Sanderson's work, which is why I wanted some more of his books, so I could just kind of read on through if I do really get into it. Because, when you get into like high fantasy books or books that have a lot of characters or a lot of story pieces to them, it's sometimes easier if you own all of the books in the series so that you can kind of just read them in order without actually losing place of any of it. The next book was just a book that I was looking at since it came out, and since it was on Book Outlet again for cheap, Johnny decided to put it into my Christmas pile, and this is Being Sloane Jacobs. Don't really remember much about this one other than it looked like a cute contemporary at the time that it was originally published, and it has a lot of praise on the back from different authors who write YA contemporary stories, so this one sounded pretty good, and it's a nice kind of little short contemporary, which you always need some of those to kind of break up the heavier books, so really looking forward to reading this one eventually. Next up is a book that my parents got me that I really, really wanted. This was one that was like kind of top on my list because I didn't really want to spend the money myself on it, so I figured it would make a good Christmas present so that somebody else could buy it for me, and it is Winter, which is the fourth and I believe final book in the Lunar Chronicles. I have read Cinder and I have read Scarlet. Cinder is still my favorite right now. I tried reading Cress earlier in this year, sometime in the summertime or so, and I read about half of it and then I got distracted by other things and I just didn't kind of finish it. So now I need to go back and kind of restart Cress and read Cress all the way through and then get into Winter. This book is kind of misleading. It doesn't look like an 800-page book, but the pages are, like everybody else says, really thin. So yeah, this is an 800-page book. But it is very beautiful, and I can't wait to see how the Lunar Chronicles goes, because I did enjoy the first 2 books. Next up was a book that my parents also got me that I have been looking at for years and years to start this series, and for some reason I just don't ever want to pay the purchase price of a trade paperback book, which is kind of ridiculous considering how many paperback books I own, but it is Poison Study. This is the first book, I believe, in this kind of like series. There's like a poison study, and the other things have study related things. And recently, kind of what now made me decide I really wanted to hopefully get this for Christmas was there is now a like 4th book that kind of, I guess, continues the love story or fantasy world and everything that starts off in this beginning series. And so that series is now being continued with the 4th book already out, and the 5th book is soon to be coming out. So I really kind of think that now is a good time to kind of jump into this series, and I've heard nothing but great things about it, so I'm really interested in starting it. Let's see here. Another book that also I was very interested in getting. It's by the same author as The Poison Study, but it's by a different series by her, which this is the first book to that series. It's Touch of Power. It just sounds like really good. The cover is really awesome for this one, by the way. Get distracted here. But the story just sounds really interesting. Everybody seems to really enjoy her books, and I've put off reading her for so many years. I don't really know why. But I just kind of feel, like I said, that now is a good time to kind of start reading her stuff, because I feel like she's releasing more books now and kind of getting back into writing all of these stories. So I'm really interested in starting both of these series. Next up is a book that many people have been talking about lately, because it kind of seems like Morgan Matson has become a thing lately, and I think I've read one of her books. I'm trying to remember which one I read, or I think I just own a couple of her books. I'm not sure that I've read anything by her yet, but this is Amy Imranjic's Epic Detour, which, like I said, Morgan Matson has been getting great praise lately. She's even writing books under a different pseudonym meant for slightly younger, like preteen girls. So she's just been getting a lot of hype in 2015, and I didn't yet own this one, and I believe this was her first book, or one of her first books that she ever wrote, so I'm really interested in reading this one, and so I'm glad that my parents got me this for Christmas. Next up is a book I really wanted because I enjoy this author immensely. I've read different types of series by her, and I've enjoyed pretty much everything she's done. It's Kimberly Derting's The Taking. I don't remember much about this, but I got the second book in this series, again, at the ALA Midwinter that Johnny and I went to at the beginning of the year, and I kept telling myself I was going to buy The Taking, but it was only out in hardcover, and I just didn't want to spend that much money on it, and so I waited until it was out in paperback, and then right around the time it came out in paperback, it's Christmas time, so I just decided to ask for it to see if I would get it. If not, I would have bought it myself, but my parents were kind enough to buy this one for me, so now I can get started on this series by Kimberly Derting because I did really enjoy it. I've started her Body Finder series. I've only read the first book in the Body Finder series, and I read the entire series, her other series, which I'm forgetting the name of, but she has a different series. Can't remember the name of it, but it has like the girl with the blonde hair on the cover of each one with like the red robe, the black robe, and the blue robe, and so this was really good. So I do like Kimberly Derting stuff anyway, so I want to continue reading her books. Next one up is a book I highly anticipated again. It was a book I really wanted on my list this year and really wanted to get, so I'm so happy that my parents again bought me a book I was really excited for, and it is Soundless by Richelle Mead. People kind of seem to have mixed feelings on this one, just because this is standalone fantasy and the book is only, like, I don't even think it's 300 pages. So people kind of have mixed feelings about this, but I've read adult series and teen series by Richelle Mead, and I've pretty much enjoyed all of her books. I recently fell in love with Vampire Academy once it got to the 4th book. Blood Promise is my top book of 2015. So I definitely need some more Richelle Mead books in my life. So I'm really happy that I got this one, and I'll be giving it a try and seeing what I think of it. I'm running out of space on my bookshelves, can't you tell? Next up is another book I highly anticipated getting this year, and my parents bought this one for me again because it's such a beautiful book, but I didn't want to buy it in hardcover basically. And it is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and it has those lovely black pages which just kind of make it ominous and dark feeling. This is supposed to be kind of, I think, set in the same world as her Grishas series, but it follows a different set of characters with like homage and page to the older series. I haven't read anything but Shadow and Bone by this author, but I was really impressed with Shadow and Bone, and I'm impressed to see where it goes with Siege and Storm, etc., etc. So I really want to finish her first series, even though people say you don't have to read the first series before you dive into Six of Crows. I really would like to get the full scope of her previous world before diving into this new one, so that's that. Next up is a book also, again, I really wanted a copy of, but again, I didn't really want to pay the purchase price on this one, which is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, The Sword of Summer. This is basically his newest series that still seems to follow the gods storyline. I haven't read the Lost Hero, the Heroes of Olympus series. I've read the entire Percy Jackson series, which I finished this year, which I was really happy with, and I really loved the final book, the 5th book in that series. And I own, right over here you can see that I have the first 4 books. I'm missing just the 5th book because it's not, I don't think, out in paperback yet. But I have the first 4 books of his kind of second series after Percy, and now I wanted to own the kind of 3rd series. I'm not sure if Percy Jackson and stuff is still seen in this series or not, because I just don't know yet, because I'm needing to catch up a little bit. But I really wanted this one because I really enjoyed Percy Jackson a lot more than I thought I was going to, and so now I'm kind of a Rick Riordan fan. I know it took me a while, because when I was growing up, Harry Potter was the thing, not Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson was a little bit after I was, like in high school. That's kind of when Percy Jackson was coming out. So I missed Percy Jackson in its original phase when I was a teenager, but I'm catching up with it now and I'm really liking his work, so I want to read more. So I was really happy to get this one. I was really happy to get all of them, but that was one of the higher ones on my list. Next up is a book that Johnny got me, again, from a book outlet thing. It was a book that I was interested in when it first came out, and I'm kind of still interested in it, and I think it was like $2 on Book Outlet at the time. And it is When You Were Mine, which I think, if I remember correctly, it's supposed to be kind of like a Shakespearean, like Romeo and Juliet kind of retelling in a way. And I just never read anything by this author, but I really enjoyed Shakespeare plays when I was in high school. I read a lot of them. I actually took, in my senior year of high school, I took a class entirely on Shakespeare literature, kind of like as an elective type of thing. I didn't even really need to take it. It was just something I took more for fun. So if I'm going to do Shakespeare for fun, I kind of enjoy some spin-off series of that area. Next up is a book in a series that I do own. The original series is Kissed by an Angel, which I have a very old cover of that book because I read it a long time ago and loved it back then. And then they redid the covers for the original series. And then the author came out and wrote 3 more books following that series. And this is one of them. It is the 5th book, I believe. It is Everlasting. It's the sequel to Evercrossed. And I know I already own Evercrossed, and I think I own Ever After. So I think I was missing this one. So I'm trying to collect these so that I can go back and reread the original trilogy because it is one of my favorite books of all time, and then dive into kind of this follow-up series. A book that I got from the lovely Bianca here at the blog. She decided to send me some Christmas presents. She sent me some chocolate and a bookmark, and she also sent me a book, and it is 99 Days. This is a book I was really interested in, again, when Johnny and I were, I feel like I keep talking about ALA Midwinter, even though that was a year ago almost. But this was a book I was highly anticipating then, and I really wanted to read something by this author. I own How to Love, which I'm currently reading at work right now when I'm on lunch break. And then also I had this one on my wish list, and I just love this cover. It seems like a cute contemporary, and I'm just really interested in seeing this author's work. So thank you so much to Bianca for buying me this and sending it to me for Christmas. Another book that I kind of just have had on my radar on and off over the past, little bit of time is This Song Will Save Your Life. It is by an author that I've heard really good things about, and I own almost all of her books, I think, but I've never read them. It was a series or an author that I originally got into because of one of the blogs I used to read. She really liked her stuff, and so I'm just really interested in reading this. It's kind of short. I mean, it's not quite 300 pages, so it'll make for a nice, cute, maybe contemporary story to read, again, to break up some of the thicker books that I read. The next book is a middle grade book, since I've been getting into middle grade more this year by reading Percy Jackson. I also got into middle grade this year by reading The School of Good and Evil, and just other things like that I really highly enjoyed this year, and I was really impressed with middle grade books this year. So I decided to kind of keep that trend going and get Loki's Wolves, which is the first book, and it's by 2 YA authors. It's by Marissa Marr and Kelly Armstrong, who decided to kind of shorten their names a little bit and change it up for a middle grade series. But these are two kind of pretty popular YA authors, and so I'm expecting good things of their middle grade book. So that's why I wanted this one. And again, it was on Book Outlet for pretty cheap, so Johnny just kind of picked it up for me. The next couple, I think all the rest of these are also from my Book Outlet haul from Johnny. And the one of them is called You. This book seems to be getting a lot of hype lately, and they recently, I think, maybe optioned it for a movie or a TV, or I could be totally wrong about that, but they've changed the cover of this one dramatically now, so it has a woman on the cover, and that kind of leads me to think that maybe it's because they're optioning it for something. But this book is kind of supposed to be, I think, like a little bit of like a mystery, a little bit creepy, but a little bit of, like about a woman who has to solve this case or something, or something goes wrong in her life, or I could be totally wrong on that, but a lot of people have been talking about this lately, and since it was for pretty cheap in hardcover on the Book Outlet, I asked Johnny if he could put it into the Book Outlet haul he was buying me, and he did. Next up is the last book in a series that I've been meaning to get around to reading. I just don't own it. I read the first two books basically on audio. I read half of the second one actually in physical form because I just wanted to speed it up. But I do like listening to this one on audio because the audio is fantastic for this series. So I mix it up always between listening to audio, usually on my way to work, and also reading the book a little bit at home, chapter to chapter. But I didn't have a copy of the third book in this series, and so now I do, and I can finish it off. And it is the last book in Laini Taylor's series, Dreams of Gods and Monsters. Like I said, the first book, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, was fantastic. Days of Blood and Starlight was a fairly slow book, I'm not going to lie. It did drag a bit in points, and it had some downfalls for me, but I'm really hoping with this last book, especially with how chunky these books are, that there will be a lot going on in here that will kind of liven the story back up and bring it to a conclusion that I'm happy with. But I love this cover. I love all the covers of this series, and I'm really excited to round this one off, hopefully in 2016. A book that Johnny's parents decided to get me was a book I was highly anticipating because this author has actually done one of my favorite books ever, and so I wanted to read more of her stuff now that she finally seems to be expanding and writing more again. And it's These Shallow Graves by Jennifer Donnelly. I know she kind of I think she wrote that Mermaid series recently, and people really didn't like that one, and I haven't even started it yet. But this author, she just, I don't know, she blew me away years and years ago with her writing for a YA book that I think that most people just haven't really read, and she wrote A Northern Light, which I loved that book so much. I can't even really pinpoint why, but it's a book I've loved for a very long time. So Jennifer Donnelly is an author that I just kind of seem to keep buying books from and keep waiting to read them because I just don't want to be disappointed, because I loved her old books so much that I'm afraid a little bit to dive into the new ones, but I'm excited at the same time. So I'm really happy that I got this book so I can dive into kind of like a little bit of a scarier, spooky kind of book, something a little bit different, I think. So we're getting to the final couple books here. I know, right? We're almost there, even though this video is almost 20 minutes long. That's what happens when you get a lot of books for Christmas. Next up, Johnny's parents bought me Shadow Dance. This is the fourth book in the series. The first one's Firelight, which I read this year. And as soon as I finished Firelight, which made it into, I think it was number 5 on my list of top 10 when I did my top 10 Tuesday post for the books that I loved this year, Firelight really impressed me. It was amazing, the story between like steampunk and historical romance with magic in it and like mythology in it. It just really blew me away. It had a lot of elements that I really enjoyed, and I was highly impressed by it. So I bought Moonglow and Winter Blaze, which is books 2 and 3 in this series, almost as soon as I read Firelight, which although I haven't continued this series yet, I really want to. This is the 4th book, so I'm just kind of like slowly collecting them, and it made a good Christmas present to kind of keep up with the series, basically. Next up, all 3 of these are from Johnny, because these were paperback books that I really wanted. The first one is the newest kind of spin-off series by J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhood series. She's starting a new kind of edition that follows, not the Brotherhood, but it follows like the people who want to join the Brotherhood, and you actually read about this couple and kind of like a little bit of their start in the last book, The Shadows, which is book, 13 of Black Dagger Brotherhood. Black Tiger Brotherhood, you know, in the last couple books has had its ups and downs, but I was really intrigued by these characters to see where she's going to go with this new younger kind of feel set in the same world. So this is Blood Kiss, which, like I said, is the first one of this kind of spin-off series, so I'm really highly interested in reading this and seeing if maybe J.R. Ward can kind of reclaim a little bit of that spark that I got when I was first reading the Black Tiger Brotherhood series. Next up, he bought me The Duke's Perfect Wife. This is a historical romance series that I have read. I have read the first, I think only the first book in this series, and I think this is like the fourth one. I own a couple in the series, and I just kind of, again, need to play catch up, but I really enjoyed the first book in the series. I think I might have even read the second book already, but I was enjoying it, and so I wanted to kind of keep reading the series and where the characters were going, so this book from Johnny allows me to do that. The last book that Johnny got me was a book that I decided to put on my wish list kind of as a whim. I kind of just saw it on a different booktuber's page, and they were talking about it, and they talked about the fact that they were rereading it, and to me, if you're going to reread a book, it had to have been pretty decent, and I've been trying to get into more adult, like fantasy and urban fantasy and things like that this year. So this is The Innocent Mage. It's book 1 by Karen Miller. It's hard to see a white cover with the lights, but that's what the cover looks like. And there is a second book to this one, and then that kind of, I think, concluded the series. And now, I think it's years later, the author already has decided to, like, whether she's continuing this series or taking some of the characters from this and going forward. She's got, like, a kind of spin-off series already to this. So if I really like this one, the author has a couple other books that go along with this, and then I can read and just kind of enjoy. So now that this video is 20-some minutes long, I'm just going to end by saying I hope you all had a great holiday season, or Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it is that you celebrate, or whatever it is you did. I hope you had a fantastic time. If you got some Christmas books or Hanukkah presents or whatever it is that you had going on, or even if it's your birthday around Christmas time, go ahead and show me the books that you got, or talk about any of the books that I got so that you can push them up on my reading list. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.